Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome back for some more EVE Online. In today's video we are in Amarr, so not in Jita, the largest trade hub in EVE Online, but in Amarr, probably the second largest trade hub in EVE Online, and well, at the moment really on the other side, you could say, of the highsec area for EVE. So really a market that has to sustain itself. Now, from the last time that I really checked at what was happening, which was quite a while ago, we are seeing, well, 300 people in local, not that much. I would say that we're actually declining a little bit compared to when we were looking at growth in Amarr, but overall still a decent amount of people, and we're seeing a decent amount of spam as well for the Hypernet relay. What I'm mostly interested in is taking a look at a couple of pretty basic resource markets, namely minerals and PI, because the celebrations were just over, so we should see a little bit of activity, I think, in Amarr space, because you got some free skill points for very little effort. And then the Amarr Empire is the largest empire holding most systems in highsec, which could mean that it has a very separate dynamic from what we're seeing in Jita. I think in Jita you've got a lot more competition and also a lot more imports from nullsec. Here Amarr has to sustain itself a little bit more, and it will obviously be dominated by all of those highsec systems that it has available. So let's go into the market and let's take a look. First of all, we'll start with the minerals, and here is the titanium chart. Very interesting. We are at around a 4 ISK for titanium in Amarr, a little bit of a bump that we saw here apparently about a week ago with an anomalous sell at a 6 ISK, but overall titanium is selling for 4 ISK and just above. Buyers are well below 4 ISK. If you guys follow EVE Talk, you know that in Jita, titanium has been able to sustain a price of 4.5 to 5 ISK on the sell price pretty damn easily and consistently over the last couple of months. So this is definitely very cheap titanium, and sort of showing that there is a lot of that highsec supply available, at least for titanium. Let's see if pyrite confirms this, and well, I would say that it does, although we also have this slight increase in price over the last couple of months. At the tail end we are breaking back down to less than 15 ISK. We got a little bit more volumes in the last couple of days, so this is probably the tax change showing through here. Volumes increases, prices decreasing, but the margins for those sellers are probably pretty much the same, and we are talking 15 ISK for the sellers, 14, 20, something like that for the buyers. Also cheaper than in Jita. Again, compared to the needs for Amarr, the availability with all of those highsec systems is a lot higher, so you are finding cheap minerals here. Then we've got Mexalon, and that to me just confirms that same trend. We again have the higher volumes with the tax changes that reduced the tax, the amount of tax that you had to pay for any trade, which also meant that there's a little bit more trade activity, but also you can sell at a lower price and still get the same basic return or net return on this. And we're actually playing with 50 ISK here for Mexalon, although sellers are at 57.50, buyers are at around 50, and they apparently are able to grab a decent chunk of the active trades. And in Jita for 460, 62 I think is pretty normal for the sellers there. So here again, that same trend definitely confirmed in my book. The highsec minerals are very available in Amarr and basically a little bit oversupplied compared to the dynamic that's happening in Jita itself. So you're finding pretty cheap highsec minerals. Let's move on to lowsec then, and here is Isogen. Definitely a different chart with, you could say, a late bloomer towards 62 ISK. The story in Isogen has always been pretty unique in Jita as well, where it has been the most oversupplied mineral during the resource bonanza period in EVE Online. It basically became a side product that was just so available that everyone could just keep basically people didn't know what to do with all their isogen, and so we get huge stockpiles that have kept the prices in check for quite a while. And yeah, we're still sort of seeing that. Look at that, although sellers are above 60 ISK again, so we should potentially see this edge back up a little bit on the chart here. We've got a 44 million unit sell order that just came in like less than 24 hours ago. That is again going to put a very strong ceiling on the potential upside for isogen for now. Here we get another 10 million and another 10 million. Obviously, again, some sellers that are coming in, but we're also, I mean, this seems like, give it a little bit more time. Q4 for the end of the resource scarcity. To me, that makes sense. I think in a couple more months we can chew through most of these reserves as well, especially on the higher trade volumes that are happening here. And then once those old stocks are no longer there and we go into active supply versus demand for isogen, which needs to be sourced mostly from low-sec, we should potentially see a very different dynamic, and in my opinion, higher prices, because isogen should logically then be quite a bit more expensive than Mexalon. Next up, we've got the Noxium chart, and this to me is very interesting as well, because this is a completely different dynamic than what we've seen in the last couple of months in JITA 4.4, where here we basically have a steady decline to the current price range. In JITA 4.4, if you follow Eve Talk, you may also be aware of this. We actually declined much faster, touched 1000 ISK, and only in the last couple of days to weeks have we managed to climb our way back up towards, and I would say, a similar price range, 1200 for the sellers, 1100 for the buyers. That's really in line with what JITA is doing at the moment, but for a couple of months or weeks here, about a month ago, you were paying a pretty big premium for Noxium here in Amarr at around 1200 still, and even above, right? We're still declining. Whereas in JITA, Noxium actually sold for like 1000 ISK for a bit. We touched this line right here. And this again, to me, shows that there are very strong dynamics at play that have very big impacts on the price movements for these resources. Whatever needs to come into low-sec here in Amarr is even harder to get than in JITA. So for me, the upside potential for isogen is even higher here than in Amarr than in JITA. And as a result, in JITA, you've got this competitive market, this faster market as well, where imports are focused, and thus their impact on the price there can be far more drastic. Here we get this slow and steady decline in the price of Noxium after the April peak, which is of course when the industry changes hit, so everyone just had to build as much as they could up until the second half of April, and then now we had this steady decline on lower industrial activity in EVE Online in general. So this makes a lot more sense. It basically takes out a little bit of speculative stuff, I would say, speculative movements from the Noxium chart, which is very much visible in JITA 4.4. Definitely quite interesting. Again, the higher volumes as well after the lowering of the taxes incentivizing trade, I would say, is good news as well. I would honestly say, yeah, 3 months of this, we can potentially chew through the final bits of reserves, and then mineral wise, I'm also seeing a market that is basically ready for these dynamics to have taken over and then to maybe increase in availability. If that's what CCP wants to do, I still hold that these basic minerals won't see that much more availability, but we will see what CCP's plans are, of course. Then we're moving on to nullsec, which is Zydrine and Megasite, of course, where we have Zydrine touching 1000 ISK at this point, even going right above that, 914. And here again, I would say that, let's see if this is 900-ish. Is that right? That's 880, so the average prices are probably around 900 for most of this period. A bit of a bump that I don't remember from the JITA market, but overall this actually feels decently in line with what we're seeing in JITA as well. Slowly now Zydrine is going up in price towards 1000 ISK, where the last couple of months it was actually going for around 900 ISK. And then we've got Megasite finally, and that is quite different as well. If you remember Eve talk, what happened for Megasite in JITA is basically we were at around that 600 ISK mark for quite a while, and then we had a single jump to 700 and we start moving sideways again, which is much more in line with that 20-day moving average. So eventually here in Amarr, you do see that same average play out, but the spike here is much more violent, going up to 900 ISK and even at almost 1000 ISK on a couple of days for Megasite, which is like 300 ISK, 2 to 300 ISK more than in JITA 4.4. Definitely also a very interesting to me and different dynamic. Same actually with this bit here, where Zydrine traded above 1000 ISK for quite a bit. I don't remember this in JITA either, which to me indicates that again, supplies in towards JITA, so imports towards JITA, are far more common, logical to do, but a little bit harder to actually manage in Amarr itself, and thus we sometimes basically run out of supplies and you get these higher prices for the nullsec minerals. And then finally we get more fights. I think here this is such a competitive market. We touch 130,000 per piece of Morphite, went back down to 100k and a little bit of bouncing around that, same as in JITA 4.4. volume wise we're not seeing an impact on the trade volume, so everyone is already scrambling for any bit of Morphite that they can get their hands on, and that is because it is in a unique place. It's needed for so much Tech 2 stuff at the moment that is just extremely expensive. And so yeah, for the longer term, if you want to speculate on what happens to minerals, my money is on Morphite actually declining in price. More availability for Morphite coming Q4 makes a lot of sense to me. More availability, for instance, for titanium at 4 ISK, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I do think that the focus for the end of the let's see, redistribution or resource scaredness that CCP is promising to end in Q4. Don't look for that to happen in Tech 1 minerals. Look for that to happen in Tech 2 minerals and more of the new items that have been introduced with the industry changes. And then next up, I'm also a little bit interested in the PI market here as well. I'm actually producing PI in Amarr space, although I'm selling coolants at the moment, but most of the other stuff I'm still hoarding. But same thing, a lot of highsec systems means potentially a lot of really safe, relatively safe of course, places to put up PI. Could mean even more supply compared to JITA 4.4. So let's take a look at this. Here are the broadcast nodes. Advanced PI, here again volume increases as well, and going for around 1.7 million buyers. There's really not a lot of buyers in Amarr itself, at least in the trading port. There's a little bit of buying happening, but here same price range as in JITA, and not a lot of demand for sure. But then construction blocks, ouch, yeah, that really does hurt. We're going down towards a 1-year low point of almost 5,000 ISK, 5.9 for the sellers, 4,700 for the buyers. Here the dynamic is pretty damn obvious, and in all likeliness even worse than in JITA 4.4. Oversupplied, there just is not enough demand for everything that's being produced. PI wise, historically speaking, construction blocks 10,000-11,000 ISK, going for like half that price at the moment, and clearly the pressure is on. Consumer electronics, below 5,000 ISK, and look at that, there's quite a few days here where the average price, daily average price, is for like 4,200 ISK. That's way below the ranges in JITA here. So 5.2 for the sellers, and look at that demand, 3,700 ISK for the buyers, and there's absolutely no one buying consumer electronics here in Amarr. So this to me really does confirm that if you're a PI producer in Amarr space, you will be struggling. And yeah, bad news for my coolants as well. You can see, for a last month or so, during the month of July, selling for 9,000 ISK. That was doable, is in line with what was available at JITA as well. But once supply comes online here in Amarr, you suffer very, very quickly. And we're actually down to 7,000 ISK at the moment. 7.5 for the sellers, 6,700 for the buyers. And again, look at that difference in supply. This is the supply just in Amarr, so there's bound to be more supply, a little bit more supply as well. Yeah, in the stations, just one jump out, and this is all the demand that's in range that has to compete with all of that supply. So yeah, prices are definitely very, very low here for PI in Amarr itself. Cryoprotectant solutions tied to implants with a little bit of these boosts here at the start of the year. Actually a little bit of volatility at the tail end, so maybe we have a little bit more speculation, but overall look at that, sellers coming in well below 100,000 disc, buyers are at 86k. If you're looking for that really cheap stuff, you come here to put down your buy orders. That's pretty obvious. Oh my god, that feels so bad. I was actually hoping that we could maintain this plateau for fuel rates PI a little bit longer. Enriched uranium at 10k, still not good, still not the historical average price, but definitely reasonable compared to everything else. And look at that crash, just massively down, 7,000 disc for the sellers. I mean, we're talking a 30% crash here in a matter of just a couple of days, and demand, it's completely gone. 6.5, that's it. Maybe 10-12 sell buy orders, and that's really all there is to it. Integrity response drones confirming that advanced PI got a nice little boost in price range because of the extra demand from the industry changes, 1.8 million to 1.5. That's definitely comparable to JITA itself, but yeah, buyers, they're just not here. To me, this does mean that when it comes to this advanced PI material, it's pretty big, it's pretty bulky. It's also like almost 2 million a piece. Once you get into decent volumes, you're probably talking freighters, jump freighters, things like that. And then, in all likeliness, there is going to be this stronger competition still, despite the massive distance between JITA and Amarr for advanced PI materials, so that we are basically competitive in range for these. And you know, it's why all of this extra demand, where does it come from? It is from nullsec, of course. Whatever is still being produced there requires this advanced PI material. So we're not talking like people that are living here in highsec that are buying all of these integrity response drones. No, it's big groups from nullsec that are looking where can I get the cheapest ones, and so they can probably buy out JITA and buy out Amarr for the same types of prices. So this really feels like this is pretty much in line with what we've got in JITA as well. But once we get to this stuff, mechanical parts, refined PI material, it's just so available, so easy to produce that buyers are coming in at 5,300 disc for mechanical parts, way below JITA prices, 6.2, and again a massive crash in the last 10 days. Now it's actually doing a little bit better, but the volumes are so erratic here that I wouldn't want to be producing or trading here. Look at that demand, 4.6, that's very low as well for nanites. And actually also way below, if I'm not mistaken, JITA prices. I think I've been looking for a buy below 5k in JITA, and that just never materialized. So if you're really looking for that cheap, for those cheap nanites being ready for an implant announcement from CCP, if that happens, it's a gamble to take. Well, if you have the patience for it, stock up in Amarr, move it to JITA, and then wait for the announcement. That's probably going to be your highest margin possible. Nano factories, very stable, 800,000, yeah, 870 even, in line with JITA again. Organic motor applicators, 750-ish. Yeah, actually 775, a little bit higher than the JITA prices that we're seeing. So advanced PI, well, here recursive, no, actually just going just below 1 million on average, just the demand isn't there. Sellers coming in at 1 million because they can actually compete with JITA. They have the same buyers coming in. So that again to me makes a perfect sense. Robotics, 60k is that low point in JITA 4.4. Here it's 50,000 disc, 55,000 for the sellers, and just below 50,000 for the buyers. So that's another 10,000 less in the price range here in Amarr, clearly suffering from that complete lack of demand. Self-harmonizing power cores, 1.8 million, probably actually almost 2 million as well here in Amarr space, so slightly more expensive than in JITA, but in line with the correct price ranges. Same thing for sterile conduits, 1.1, yeah, actually a little bit more expensive again. Ukami superconductors, some moves here. To me, this is a little bit of speculation already on potentially an implant announcement. 76k, that's still lower than JITA prices if I'm not mistaken. And then finally the wetware mainframes selling for 1.7 million for most. Again, very much in line with the JITA prices. So this is kind of interesting. It is pretty obvious that the dynamic does play. Way more highsec systems available for Amarr, for the Amarr empire, means way more highsec minerals and PI as well, apparently. Just, or maybe it's not even that much more PI, but the demand just isn't there to absorb everything that can potentially be produced in highsec. And so you are looking at way cheaper titanium than in JITA, way cheaper pyrite, and way cheaper Mexilon as well. Same with all of these refined PI products, some of them crashing down to prices that are even 10% lower than in JITA 4.4, just on a complete lack of demand. And it's just this dynamic here in Amarr. You have to keep that in mind. It does make potentially for opportunities in industry where you can get some very cheap basic resources. But at the moment, of course, it's very difficult to produce anything economically because of what happened in April with the industry changes. But, you know, if you want to be ready for the longer term, if you're looking to stock up, to buy, to maybe even speculate a little bit on some minerals like oxygen potentially going higher, then Amarr does look like an interesting place to place your bets, to start stockpiling them, but perhaps then moving them to other trade hubs and then having the right horizon, selling at the right time, could be an interesting move to make here as well. But overall, the Amarr empire, the Amarr trade hub is clearly being dominated by oversupply from highsec, and then probably some jitters from a less stable or a less available import system compared to JITA 4.4, and that means quite a few differences in how the market behaves here. Yeah, I thought I would share this with you guys now that I'm here anyways, and I am thinking about moving my PI facilities, probably to Galente space, so I've got both Galente and the JITA markets potentially as a place to sell, because here, I mean, even my coolants and everything is just crashing down to such low prices that it's really probably starting to be worth it to move my PI. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.